November 27th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the release of detainees and hostages between Israel and Hamas. Hamas has let 17 hostages go in exchange for 39 Palestinians held by Israel on the third day of the temporary ceasefire. Hamas says it's also willing to extend the truce beyond the initially agreed four-day period to secure the release of additional Palestinian prisoners. Top diplomats of South Korea, Japan, and China met down in the port city of Busan over the weekend and agreed to expedite efforts for a trilateral summit between the leaders of the three countries to take place as early as possible. We are just a day away from voting to name the 2030 World Expo host. South Korea's Prime Minister Han Duck-soo is in Paris, meeting with delegates of BIE member states and will present a last-minute pitch. Hamas has released 17 hostages in exchange for 39 Palestinians held captive by Israel on the third day of an agreed four-day temporary ceasefire. While the Palestinian military group hinted at possibly extending the ceasefire to release more hostages, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stressed he is open to the idea, but the war will continue full power once the ceasefire ends. Lee Seung-ja has more.
On the third day of hostage releases on Sunday, Hamas released 17 hostages, including 13 Israelis, in exchange for 39 Palestinians who had been held at Israeli detention centers. 33 of the Palestinians released by Israel were minors. The exchange came despite a delay of several hours after Hamas accused Israel of violating the agreement, but the issue was resolved through the mediation of Qatar and Egypt. The New York Times reported on the harsh conditions that the hostages faced through the stories of relatives who had spoken to those released by Hamas. The newspaper reported that the hostages lived in complete isolation from the outside world and returned looking emaciated. They mainly ate rice and bread, but there were times when they could not eat, leading to some of them losing as much as 6 to 8 kilograms during the ordeal. Among the released hostages from Gaza was a 4-year-old American girl who had been left orphaned after her parents were killed during the October 7th attack. While praising her release, U.S. President Joe Biden also called on the need to extend the ceasefire so that more hostages can be released moving forward.
That's my goal. That's our goal, to keep this pause going beyond tomorrow so that we can continue to see more hostages come out and surge more humanitarian relief into those who are in need in Gaza.
The Associated Press reports that Hamas is willing to release more hostages in exchange for an extended ceasefire. Citing sources close to the Palestinian militant group, they're willing to release an additional 20 to 40 hostages. With 58 hostages being released in the first 3 days of the four-day temporary ceasefire so far, it's still short of the reported 240 people taken captive by Hamas on October 7th. Meanwhile, in a video statement to President Biden, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he is open to extending the current ceasefire, but once it is over, the military's ground operation will return in full force. According to the Prime Minister, while the current four-day agreement can be extended to allow more hostages to be released, he stressed that at the end of the deal, Israel will continue its operations to destroy Hamas. Lee Seung-ja, Arirang News.
President Yoon has returned from his week-long trip to Europe, which included a state visit to the United Kingdom and a 3-day campaign in Paris to promote Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo. Our Oh Soo-young brings us the main outcomes of that trip, which went beyond reinforcing friendly relations and strengthened long-term security ties.
Seoul is building its clout as a trusted security partner in the Indo-Pacific region. That's according to experts following President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to the United Kingdom and France last week. Emphasising their shared values of freedom, human rights and the rule of law, Yoon's Downing Street Accord with UK leader Rishi Sunak showed an unprecedented level of security cooperation between the two sides, featuring deals on supply chains and the development of sensitive dual-use technologies. co-developing artificial intelligence and quantum technologies to target North Korean missiles, as well as cybersecurity, which could act as a bridge to strengthen Seoul's links with the Five Eyes intelligence group, consisting of the UK, the United States, New Zealand, Australia and Canada, was also part of the deal.
The willingness to share intelligence with other countries, in this case South Korea, shows a high level of trust in the government of South Korea, also in the intelligence gathering capabilities of South Korea, the military of South Korea as well, right? So in a sense, it's proof that South Korea is considered to be a reliable partner by all these countries. Now, on top of that, these countries can gather intelligence that South Korea cannot. For example, in the Middle East, for example, in Russia. Even if we look at China, for example, they have different assets.
Seoul also reaffirmed its value-based cooperation with Paris, agreeing to work together on AI and quantum technology as Presidents Yoon and Macron exchanged views on North Korea's weapons collaboration with Russia and the conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East, particularly as South Korea begins its 2-year tenure as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council next year. South Korea has also been looking to multilateral platforms and like-minded partners to tackle global challenges that threaten peace, freedom and the rule of law in the international community.
First of all, because we have seen, as a result of growing US-China competition, but also the Trump administration being in office in the past, how South Korea has been looking at other potential partners, not to replace the US, but really to complement what it gets from the US-Japan cooperation with Korea is very much driven by specific security threats. And I think in the case of Europe, this is not necessarily the case.
Beyond security and economic interests, South Korea has also grown its capacity to contribute to global development. The country's bid to host the 2030 World Expo has been highlighted as the chance to foster global solidarity towards the goals of tackling inequality, climate change, and emerging digital challenges that affect all societies. Presenting Busan as the world's solutions platform based on Korea's own transformation from a war-torn nation to a digital and cultural powerhouse, Yoon has held over 150 summits with 96 countries since its inauguration last year. Young, Arirang News.
The foreign ministers representing South Korea, Japan and China met over the weekend in Busan as they seek to boost cooperation. They also decided to speed up efforts needed to resume their leaders' summit, which hasn't taken place for over 4 years. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji has the key takeaways from Sunday's meeting. Top diplomats of South Korea, Japan and China sat down for talks on Sunday and agreed to expedite preparations for the upcoming summit between their leaders. The three officials met here at the Durimaru APEC House in Busan and reaffirmed their efforts to hold a trilateral summit at the earliest convenient time. Following the meeting that lasted for about an hour and a half, Seoul's Foreign Minister Park Jin explained that the three officials have decided to put trilateral cooperation back on track as soon as possible.
We'll continue to work to make sure that the holding of the summit can be materialized in the near future.
Park's Japanese and Chinese counterparts Yoko Kamikawa and Wang Yi also highlighted the importance of cooperation between the three countries.
China will work together with South Korea and Japan to put the trilateral cooperation back on track and maintain a sound and steady development of trilateral relations.
I hope today's foreign ministers meeting could become the opportunity for the three countries to resume trilateral cooperation.
The last summit between the presidents of the three countries was held in December 2019 in China. It has not taken place for more than 4 years, largely due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but also because of strained relations between Seoul and Tokyo. South Korea, as the chair of the upcoming summit, had hoped to hold the meeting before the end of this year. But the three countries have yet to agree on a specific date, and with a little more than a month remaining, arranging a meeting in 2023 is proving difficult. The Korean government is now reportedly aiming for it to take place sometime early next year. Meanwhile, ahead of the three-way talks, Park also held separate meetings with his Japanese and Chinese counterparts. While meeting the Chinese foreign minister, Park urged Beijing to play a constructive role in persuading North Korea to halt provocations. In response, Wang said China has always played and will continue to play the role needed to help stabilize the situation on the Korean peninsula.
During talks with Japan's foreign minister, the two sides discussed issues including a recent South Korean High Court ruling that ordered the Japanese government to compensate victims of Japan's wartime sexual slavery. Park reiterated Seoul's position that it respects the agreement made in 2015 with Tokyo, which says the two countries agreed to finally and irreversibly resolve the issue. But Kamikawa called the court verdict extremely regrettable and urged South Korea to take appropriate measures. 배은지, Arirang News, Busan.
South Korea, the U.S. and Japan held trilateral naval drills in waters south of the Korean Peninsula on Sunday to bolster combined military preparedness amid North Korea's evolving nuclear and missile threats. The exercises took place in waters off the coast of Jeju Island and involved the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson. The nuclear-powered vessel arrived at a naval base in southern port city of Busan last Tuesday in a show of a defensive posture against Pyongyang's military provocations. The trilateral naval drills came a day after the North said its reconnaissance satellite launched on the 21st took photos of U.S. Army bases in South Korea as well as in Hawaii and Guam. And the U.S. Security Council is set to convene an emergency meeting on Monday local time to discuss responses to North Korea's launch of a military reconnaissance satellite. According to a UN statement on Sunday, the Security Council will hold talks in New York at 10 a.m. Monday local time at the request of 8 members, which included the United States, Japan, and the United Kingdom. South Korea will also participate in the meeting as an interested party. Now, the meeting comes as UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres strongly condemned North Korea's launch of a spy satellite last week, calling it a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. So the top diplomats of Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing met over the weekend, where they agreed on collaborative efforts for what will be the first summit between the leaders of the three countries in 4 years. Let's discuss more about the outcomes of Sunday's meetup with Professor Kim Jae-chan this morning. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Professor Kim, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, first of all, expressed concerns over the partial suspension of the 2018 military agreement and told his South Korean counterpart Park Jin that China will do its part to help stabilize the situation here on the Korean Peninsula. Now, what do you think Wang means by this?
Well, China's stance on the Korean Peninsula hasn't really changed much in recent years, and that stance is that stability is the most important concern before any other considerations, because if conflicts arise on the Korean Peninsula, the U.S. will definitely deploy strategic military assets to the Korean Peninsula, which could undermine China's strategic interest. You know, China wants to concentrate more on continuous economic growth. So all in all, China wants to avoid instability on the Korean Peninsula and confrontation with the U.S. over Korea. So stability is the top priority, particularly when China's economy is going through difficult times. Mm-hmm. That said, I don't think China will put pressure on North Korea and then discourage North Korea from launching provocations.
Right. China has never been really active when dealing with Korean Peninsula situations, like you say, especially in the recent years. And what kind of constructive role do you think, Professor Kim, China can actually play to manage some of the situations?
Well, not much, really. I think there will be a limit to which China can play a proactive role here. On the Korean Peninsula, I mean, in terms of managing situations, mm-hmm. It's true that if there is one country that has certain leverage over North Korea, I think that country is going to be China. But as I said, I don't think China is going to exercise that leverage because North Korea's strategic value looms larger than before as the U.S.-China strategic competition is escalating. And North Korea has become a very important country to China as a strategic buffer zone. That's why China doesn't really condemn North Korea's provocations. Rather, China has become a very important patron for North Korea. And I think North Korea understands this new Cold War dynamic that I think is the reason why North Korea has become much bolder these days. I mean, in terms of launching provocations, because provocations could raise many eyebrows in Beijing, but Beijing will eventually stand behind North Korea.
Definitely. Now, let's talk about the three sides who put their heads together down in the Busan city. The three foreign ministers of Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing reportedly discussed, outlining details for the summit between the leaders of the three countries, which is unlikely to happen within the year. Now, when it actually does take place, what would that summit mean for the three sides, do you think?
The bilateral relation between South Korea and China has deteriorated over the years, and the bilateral relation between Japan and China is not at its best either. Then how can we mend fences? Trilateral summit can be an important start here, because the trilateral summit between three countries is an established diplomatic mechanism, so you don't really have to reinvent the wheel here. All you need to do is to reactivate this annual trilateral summit that has been suspended mainly because of COVID pandemic. Another advantage of the trilateral summit is that you can put aside difficult political and then security issues. Traditionally, the trilateral summit try to tackle some of the easier issues such as disaster reliefs and climate change and all, rather than hard security issues. So I see many advantages here.
Definitely. All right, Professor Kim Jae-chan, thank you as always for your insightful comments. You have a great day.
Thank you.
South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo is in Paris making a last-minute push for Busan's 2030 World Expo bid, just a day left until the Expo vote. The PM, who co-chairs the bid committee for the World Expo 2030 Busan, departed for France on Sunday to take part in the General Assembly of the BIE, the organizer of World Expo. Now, according to PM's office, Han is scheduled to meet with delegates from BIE member states and articulate South Korea's vision to transform the World Expo into a platform addressing humanity's challenges, including war and conflict, the digital divide, and climate change. Han said in a Facebook post before his departure, "Until the last moment, with an unyielding spirit, I will do my best to deliver joyful news to the grateful people." So we are just one day away from the voting that will decide the host of the 2030 edition. And South Korea has come a long way to appeal its city, Busan, as the most suitable host. With hopes high now, our culture correspondent Song Yu-jin takes a look back on Korea's journey to try and bring the World Expo to Busan City.
The decision on which country will host the 2030 World Expo is just around the corner. South Korea's second-largest city, the southern port city of Busan, is competing against Saudi Arabia's Riyadh and Italy's Rome. While this year has been packed with expo-related events, Busan's preparation started years before.
Busan's efforts to host the Expo have been ongoing since 2016. Throughout the last 7 years, South Korea as a whole and the city government have worked hard. For example, Busan promoted its Expo bid to regions that it did not have close contact with before, such as Africa.
Korea has gone all out to bring the Expo to Busan. Designating the 2030 World Expo Busan as a national task, President Yoon, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, and Foreign Affairs Minister Park Jin traveled to dozens of countries to rally support. President Yoon even took the stage as a speaker during Busan's fourth presentation to the Bureau International des Expositions. The private sector joined forces too, with the leaders of Samsung, SK, Hyundai Motor, and LG going overseas as economic delegations, promoting the Busan Expo by screening promotional videos and installing large-scale advertisements. According to the Prime Minister, government officials and business leaders visited 180 countries, all told. Businesses also work diligently at home to boost domestic interest.
We teamed up with the Busan city government to establish this designated area for the 2030 World Expo in hopes of bringing it to Busan.
I didn't know that Korea had prepared so much for the Expo bid. It makes me realize how important this is. I really hope Busan wins.
Renowned cultural figures joined in too. BTS held a free concert in Busan, and soprano Cho Soo-mi, along with singer Psy and aespa's Karina, took part in Busan's BIE presentation. But the heart of Busan's campaign lies with the unrivaled enthusiasm of the people living there. Thousands welcomed the BIE when they arrived at Busan train station in April for an on-site visit.
I would go after almost 20 years in expos, and I have been on many, many inquiry missions throughout expos. I don't think I have ever seen such an enthusiasm in the local population for an event.
Behind this was the Citizens Committee on Busan's bid for the 2030 World Expo, which also organized the Gwanghwanli Fireworks Festival and Expo-themed movie and music festivals with the public.
Busan has experience hosting major international events like the World Cup and Asian Games. So we have the know-how, the facilities and efficient transport infrastructure. That's why Busan is ready to successfully host the Expo.
With fingers firmly crossed, all that's left now is for the 182 BIE member countries to make a decision in Paris on November 28th.
Busan 화이팅!
파이팅!
Busan Expo 화이팅!
부산 화이팅!
송유진, 아리랑 뉴스.
Good morning. I'm Kim Si-young. We now turn over to stories from around the world. We begin with the Russia-Ukraine war, where over the past weekend, both sides have used large-scale drone attacks. Russia, on Saturday morning, launched its most intense drone attack since the start of the war on Ukraine, and Kyiv replied on Sunday with drones and missiles. No deaths have yet been reported on either side from the attacks. Ukrainian military reported that Russia launched a total of 75 Iranian-made Shahed drones targeting Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Of the 75 drones, 74 were destroyed by Ukrainian air defenses. At least 5 civilians, including an 11-year-old child, were injured, according to the mayor of Kyiv. The Russian Ministry of Defense, meanwhile, reported that on Sunday, Russia shot down 24 Ukrainian drones over Moscow, Tula, Kaluga and the surrounding areas. The military also reported of 2 missiles destroyed over the Sea of Azov, and Russian air defenses intercepted 53 Ukrainian drones over the Ukrainian territory under Russian control. Now moving over to China, where concerns have been rising over a potential outbreak of a new infectious respiratory diseases. Following a request for information by the WHO, a spokesperson from China's National Health Commission said on Sunday that a novel virus was not behind the wave of illnesses and that influenza is the main cause, followed by rhinoviruses, pneumonia, RSV and the adenovirus. While some experts have said that the current conditions are due to the lifting of COVID-19 lockdown restrictions, as exposure to common pathogens had been minimized during lockdown. Outside scientists are asking for the situation to be closely monitored. Now lastly, a cargo ship with 14 crew on board sank off the Greek island of Lesbos on Sunday. One of those aboard has been confirmed dead, with 12 others still missing. The Comoros-flagged cargo ship named Raptor was carrying 6,000 tons of salt from El Dakila port in Egypt to Istanbul when it made a distress call to the Greek Coast Guard, reporting a mechanical failure. According to the operating company of the ship, based in Lebanon, 11 of the crew were Egyptians, while 2 were Syrian and 1 was an Indian national. Authorities are still searching for the missing crew members.
Good morning. Wet clouds are dropping light showers on most places this morning. Keep an umbrella handy. It will rain on and off through tonight before letting up from the capital. Northern parts of Gyeonggi-do could see up to 10 millimeters. The rest of the country could see spotty rain, and rain could turn to snow in mountainous parts of Gangwon-do province. Thick clouds kept yesterday's warmth overnight. Then highs will go up slightly higher than norms. Seoul tops out at 10 degrees. Daegu will hike to 14. Busan, Jeju cozy at 17 degrees with some late afternoon sunshine in Busan. Then this week we can expect brighter skies, but much colder air creeping in again to the country, and it will remain freezing cold through the rest of November. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Tuesday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? I'm live!
저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해주시는 세션분들
아무리 봐도 없지 펜션 같은데 아니라고 아무도 안 하는 거고
좋아요.
Wiz fans seem wiped out. But you guys can't just sit and watch.
Korea hydro and nuclear power envisions a world flowing with energy as clean as the blue skies, where we can enjoy energy without worrying about the planet by finding new alternative sources to achieve carbon neutrality through clean, carbon-free energy. KHNP is creating a new future for a carbon-free world. Korea hydro and nuclear power.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's Monday, November 27th here in Seoul, and I'm Shin, and you're watching News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Choi Ji-hee.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Brooke Prince.
Hello, nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. 9-year-old Israeli-Irish Emily Hand was one of the many initially feared dead after the Hamas attack on Israel, but was later identified as one of those abducted as hostages. Media coverage showed how desperately worried her family members were. After weeks of waiting and staying in fear, she came back to her family and friends alive as part of the hostage-prisoner deal between Israel and Hamas. Emily was one of the 13 Israelis and 4 Thai nationals that were released on Saturday night by Hamas in exchange for 39 Palestinian prisoners. Moving on to our second story. Last week, an electric vehicle taxi ran into a building in Busan City and caught fire. It took firefighters a total of 50 minutes to put the fire out. Experts explain that it's harder to extinguish an EV that catches fire because the batteries used for them could go up to a whopping 1,000 degrees Celsius. This has spurred concern since the number of EVs, especially used as taxis, has soared over the past few months. 4 out of every 10 newly registered taxis from January to August this year were EVs. And while 500,000 test takers wait for the results of their college entrance exam, also known as Suneung during this time of the year, many plastic surgery clinics post ads and hold promo events, mainly targeting soon-to-be college students with luring phrases like become more attractive before starting a new chapter in life. Online ads specifically target Suneung test takers, offering discounts for those who bring in their test admission tickets. Now, the health ministry has been trying to crack down on this trend for 2 reasons. One, medical advertisements promoting conditional discounts, such as providing plastic surgery to people with the latest college entrance exam admission ticket, may violate the medical law. According to Articles 56 and 27 of Korea's medical law, promotions using major discount events on medical treatment that isn't covered by the national health insurance, such as plastic surgery, and don't specify exactly how much or how many people can receive such discounts are illegal. Now, the second reason why officials are trying to crack down on this is because experts have pointed to how most test takers are most vulnerable after a big exam like Suneung. If they come across adverts that say you can get pretty by plastic surgery, this could distort their image of beauty or implant unhealthy beauty standards. Now, here in the studio, what do you guys think about this news story? Starting with you, Brooke.
This story reminds me a lot of when I was teaching high school here, and I remember my students told me that it was very common for young Korean people to get double double eyelid surgery as a gift for graduating. And that was definitely very surprising for me to hear. But I am of the mind that you shouldn't police what other people do with their bodies. So in general, I think as long as they are fully informed of the decision that they're making and they're making it for their own personal reasons, then I support that. I'm not going to stand in the way of that. However, that being said, I do think that there's something a little concerning about the phrasing.
Yeah.
You mentioned, become more attractive, become prettier. And I would say, since living here, I've had people tell me in Korean, oh, you're so pretty now that you've lost weight. So I think there's a kind of a cultural thing going on there. And I think it can be concerning to tell young people you can become pretty only if you have these superficial changes. So I think it's a nuanced topic. In general, I support doing what you want to do with your own body, but as long as you still believe in and see your own natural beauty.
That's a very good point. Especially, I think you really highlighted our looksist culture, because here in Korea, though we think it may be a compliment to say, hey, you lost weight, which is why you're pretty, that could come across as being a little bit offensive.
But what was I like before?
Exactly. What were your thoughts on this story?
Well, I'm all for these students after Suneung getting plastic surgeries, especially if an individual had a physical complex for a while, then I think it's totally fine to try and overcome that through surgeries. However, what the government is talking about is the advertisements, right? They should really be careful because, like the officials are arguing, they might be very distortive. They could be distorting the beauty image and imposing false beauty standards on these vulnerable young students. However, I think it's okay if it's your choice to really want to get a surgery and overcome your physical complex, that's fine. And I also remember watching this very short video clip of a plastic surgeon. He was saying there's just one thing, one part in your body that you cannot change through surgery.
What is it?
And that is your eyes or your gaze.
Your gaze.
The gaze you have. Right. The gaze, it comes from your inner mind. It comes from your confidence. And it can only be built and developed by just focusing on yourself, not just the superficial looks, but just really your character.
Yeah, your inner beauty.
Yes, your inner beauty. So that's what's more interesting, important.
Exactly. And that was our news feed for this Monday. We're now going to switch gears to our main discussion topic of the day. We're just a day ahead of finding out who will be hosting the 2030 World Expo. South Korea's hopes are high as the port city of Busan is one of the candidates. My AI voice secretary has the details.
South Korea is hoping to hold the 2030 World Expo in the port city of Busan. The international fair brings countries together to share their latest technological and scientific advancements. It started with London's Great Exhibition back in 1851 and has been held every 5 years. As of now, Busan, Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and Rome in Italy are in the running to host this international event. 182 member states will cast a secret vote on Tuesday, determining which city will have the honors of hosting the 2030 World Expo under the theme of transforming our world, navigating toward a better future.
The million-dollar question is, who will win the bid to host the 2030 World Expo? Here in the studio, what do you guys think will happen tomorrow?
Well, I really hope Busan wins.
Yes.
But for that, in a final attempt to really host this World Expo in Busan, the government as well as the corporate leaders and other organizations made a joint effort. In particular, President Yoon visited the BIE headquarters in Paris in person and promoted Busan's attractions. He promised that if Busan is chosen as the host for the 2030 World Expo, it would serve as a platform to create and spread synergy between different cultures, skills, and beliefs of each nation. Now, the Busan Expo promotion activities had a significant impact, in particular in Paris, which is a major battleground for corporations. For example, Samsung Electronics put up billboards at the Paris airport. Hyundai Motor displayed digital outdoor advertisements in downtown Paris. And also you could see LG buses running around in London, England as well. So this isn't the first international fair, in fact, hosted by South Korea, because in the past we had the expos in Daejeon and Yeosu in 1993 and 2012 respectively, and I've been to both of them.
Really now?
But anyhow, the Korean government is in particular very enthusiastic about hosting another event such as these, because the past last two expos, they were just special expos under the BIE standard. But if we were to host the Busan Expo, it would be the World Expo, and South Korea could really become the 7th country in the world to have hosted 3 mega international events, including the Olympics, the World Cup, and the World Expo. And that will be we'll be joining France, the US, Canada, Japan, Germany, and Italy as the 7th country.
The 7th country.
That's so cool.
Fingers crossed, and 7 is a lucky number, so we'll hope to see some good results. What about you? What do you hope to see happen?
Well, from what I've heard, Saudi Arabia and South Korea are the 2 top contenders, and they are really going all out to win this bidding war. Personally, as a foreigner who's been living here for 7 years, I, of course, hope that Korea wins the bid. And I just think that Busan is such a great city for it to happen. I've been there a few times. The last time I went there was actually a huge honor for me because I got to speak at a ceremony that was commemorating the 70th anniversary of the Armistice Agreement. So I got to meet the president and shake his hand, and I got to help honor the veterans that were in attendance. It was a really meaningful experience, and the event itself was so well organized. It was held at the Busan Cinema Center. I don't know if you've seen it or been there before, but the architecture is just stunning. It's so beautiful. And Busan in general has so many places like that. So I think that Busan is a great candidate, and I'm really crossing my fingers that we will get to host the World Expo.
Exactly, and as its slogan, Busan is ready, which is why we're definitely rooting for this port city, the largest port city here in Korea, to win, and so are many other countries. But let's now analyze why. What makes Busan such an attractive option to be hosting a big event like the World Expo?
Well, first of all, the bidding process of Busan, it received a lot of attention from different media outlets because the city showcased several events such as the BTS concert, a large-scale fireworks show, a welcome ceremony for the BIE delegation, the 2023 Busan Wheelchair Fencing World Cup was also held there, and visits by diplomatic delegations from different countries as well. Now, during the time of the Expo bid, there was a significant increase, apparently, in the number of foreign tourists visiting Busan as well. And based on statistics from the Busan Tourism Organization, the number of foreign tourists increased, in fact, by 5-fold on year, and just within the first half of this year. So the city's brand image definitely was analyzed and found to have improved as well. And all these events, the special events, international events that Busan held, have definitely contributed to the growth of the region.
Yeah, you can see a lot of economic improvement there just by even promoting the fact that we might be holding the 2030 World Expo. Now, Brooke, would you like to add on as to why this city could be a very appealing host city?
Yes, I think a lot of people are rooting for Busan to win because it is such an attractive option. And I think we're hearing more and more about what the city actually has to offer. Because I've heard more about Busan in the last couple of years than I have the entire time I've been in Korea. And I think that's because of the anticipation that's been building up around this World Expo. And also, it's based on how popular this city is, how much it has to offer. So as you can see, there are many beautiful, beautiful places to go to in Busan. There is the Busan Cinema Center, which I mentioned earlier. There's also the Junggu International Market, the Jagalchi Market, the Gimjeong-Sansong Mountain Makgeolli Village, and just all sorts of places that you can go to enjoy. Of course, we cannot mention Busan without mentioning seafood. It is so delicious there. So I think if they do end up hosting the World Expo 2030, the attendees will have so many things to do, attractions to see, and of course, delicious food to eat.
Exactly. Then my last question in this part of our discussion is, I understand it's an appealing city. I personally love Busan City as well. It's a great place to go during the summer, great beaches, great food, as you both mentioned. But is it ready to hold such a big event, like logistically speaking, infrastructure-wise? Is Busan ready to hold a large-scale exhibition?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, why?
Well, first of all, every October, Busan holds the Busan International Film Festival, which is known as the largest film festival in Asia. And the festival features, of course, a wide variety of films and invites filmmakers and industry professionals from all over the world. And not just this event, but also it's famous for hosting various international events as well in Bexco. And Bexco is known as the country's leading convention center. So in 2019, Bexco hosted the ASEAN-Korea Forum, which of course brought together leaders from different countries, and they were building and strengthening partnerships all together. And Bexco also hosted the League of Legends World Championship, one of the biggest esports events in the world. And recently, it also successfully hosted the largest game exhibition in Korea called G-Star, where they showcased the latest gaming technology and trends. So overall, Busan and Bexco have become an important international hub for cultural as well as business events, attracting global attention as well as contributing to the growth of the region.
Yeah, for sure. And Brooke, I couldn't help but notice you were smiling to hear.
I was so happy to hear League of Legends, my favorite game. So I'm glad he mentioned it. I did not get to go to the games in Busan, but I did recently go to the World Championships held in Seoul. And it was a fantastic event, as expected. Korea in general just always has the most professional, polished approach to holding these events, which is why I think Busan is definitely ready to do this. Speaking of my own experience, which I talked about earlier, that event was quite an important official event. They had a lot of high-ranking officials there, like the president, other politicians, veterans. So the security had to be top-notch, which it will also have to be for the World Expo. And it was just so smooth. The staff made sure that everything ran smoothly, everyone was safe. And so because of that personal experience, as well as all of the information that we've covered today, I think Busan is well equipped to be a host for this huge honor. And like they say, Busan is ready.
Busan is ready, and we've shown you guys through all these different large-scale global exhibitions and different festivals out there. And we asked our viewers what they would like to see at the 2030 World Expo and which country they're bidding for, hopefully Busan City. Take a look at the screen to find out what 3 of our viewers had to say. Hannah said Busan would be an amazing host for the 2030 World Expo. The city has a lot to offer, from its beautiful beaches to its cutting-edge technology. Go for it, Busan, and show everyone what you're made of. Doina Hire said, yes, I hope Busan will host 2030 World Expo. It's the best place for an event like this. And Benny says, yes, I'm ready to have Busan host the 2030 World Expo once they win the bid. On behalf of everyone from the Philippines, we are ready. And so is Busan. And to better find out how the atmosphere is like in Busan at the moment, we're going to include an assistant professor at Busan University of Foreign Studies in our talks. So stay tuned for our live interview. We're now going to include someone who's in Busan right now. It's Taegan Smith, assistant professor at Busan University of Foreign Studies. Welcome, Taegan.
Hello, nice to see everyone. I also wanted to mention I work as an assistant professor, but I'm also working as a travel reporter, an event reporter. So I've been working for TV and radio doing millions of interviews about the expo as well.
Okay, well, you're a perfect match for our interview then. So let's start off with this. Where in Busan are you at the moment, and how's the atmosphere like there, which is only a day ahead of finding out the results of who'll be hosting the 2030 World Expo?
I live in an area called Suyeong-gu, which is actually about 1 kilometer from Gwangali Beach. So if you guys have seen the famous bridge in Busan, I live very close to that area.
Nice. And what's the atmosphere like? Are people hyped up? Are they excited for the bidding results to come out tomorrow?
Yes, so Busan actually has been hyped up all year long. So I want to emphasize that it's not just right now. Busan has been holding rallies, concerts, drone shows, events, everything to anticipate the result. Busan, everyone is really excited. And to be honest, I really hope we win, because I can't imagine what it's going to be like if we don't, because people are really putting their hearts and souls into bidding for this expo.
Yeah, it's not just in Busan. Here in Seoul, we saw a lot of landscapes, and like even the Lotte Tower, they were like putting up signs saying that Busan must win. So all of our hopes are high. Ji, would you like to ask a question to take?
Sure. So do you think Busan will be better promoted to the world if it becomes a host country?
Yes, I think that Busan will be showcased to the world if we become a host country. And I personally think that the world is ready for Busan. Busan is a hidden treasure. So part of me, I do like that it is a hidden treasure because obviously it is my treasure, but I do want to know how great Busan is. It's a wonderful place for people to come and see. And so if we become the host city for the 2030 Expo, I think the world will realize, wow, what is this city that we didn't know about? And it will be put onto the global scale for everyone to see.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your excitement with us. We definitely feel it here in the studio. I have one last question for you. Can you promote Busan to us as a foreigner who is living there and tell us why you would like it to be the city that hosts the World Expo 2030?
Okay, so Busan's old phrase was dynamic Busan. They've changed it now to Busan is good, but I personally like dynamic Busan because that summarizes what I think of Busan. Busan has everything. Busan has beaches, infrastructure, events, and also jung, like a Korean feeling, right? Busan is a city where you're going to feel the people's love. Not only is Busan ready in terms of the infrastructures and the preparation, Busan has a heart. So I want everyone to come to Busan and feel the love of Busan. And also, if you know Korean, you could say 살아있네. So Busan, we're alive. So come here and experience all of the love and feel alive in Busan. Experience beaches and all of the wonderful things that Busan has.
Well, we will do that, Tegan. It was a pleasure. Exactly.
Amazing.
That was a great thing that you said right there. And also, I really like the fact that you said not only is Busan ready, but the world is now ready to have Busan host the World Expo. Thank you so much, Tegan. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to end off by sharing our hopes ahead of the bidding results tomorrow. Busan is ready.
Yes.
The world is also ready.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Busan is ready. 살아있네.
So good.
Because in Busan we have that dialect too. Like in Korea, based on regions, we have that dialect. And a catchphrase is 살아있네, which means I think it could be colloquial for like you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Busan's ready. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I truly hope that Busan really wins the bid because it's going to help enhance our country's public image as well as the prestige of the whole country. And it's going to bring a lot of economic effects as well, creating new jobs. And Busan really holds a special place in my heart personally, as it's my parents' hometown. And I still have relatives living there, so I go to Busan quite often. So I really do hope that Busan can win. So judges, do vote for Busan.
You're like the promo girl, especially since it's your hometown, your parents' hometown. It resonates in your heart.
Does.
What about you, Brooke?
Honestly, Tegan did such a good job of promoting it. I feel like there's not much left to say, but I really hope that Busan wins. I also have a soft spot for that city. I've made many beautiful memories there, and I really hope that all of the future attendees get to come and make their own memories in Busan. It's a great city. Let's hope we win.
Let's hope we win, and we will see the results tomorrow, so stay in tune to find out who will be hosting the 2030 World Expo. In the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Chiji.
Thank you.
Hope Busan wins.
Yes, let's hope so.
All right, and Brooke Prince.
Thank you. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Now, thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, look my way. Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?
Arrow straight through my heart.
Children's laughter, hope, dream. K-animation belongs in them. Interesting and valuable story that transcends between everyday life and dream. Surprising spectacle